We've made it. After enduring the twisted depths of STEM, we now arrive at the final chapter of Act 1 in my Halloween Havok saga. A series where I don't just play horror games. No. I live them. And when the game is over, I rip those nightmares from the screen and drag them into our world, turning them into haunted houses fit for Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights. And now, with The Evil Within 2 completed, it's time to build something beautiful and broken. A haunted house born from psychological torment, obsession, and a world on the verge of collapse. So grab your flashlight, steady your breath, and step inside the fractured mind of Sebastian Castellanos, because Union is falling apart, and this time, you're going with it. Halloween Horror Nights is more than just an event, it's a proving ground for fear. What started as a small-scale, 3-night experiment back in 1991 has become an international horror juggernaut. Every fall, the gates of Universal open wide and fiction rips through reality, bringing movie monsters, slashers, and scream-inducing legends to life. And over the course of the event's lifespan, horror games have slowly started carving out their place in the fog. We've walked through Silent Hill. We've faced the Resident Evil outbreak. Hell, we've even trudged through the fungal apocalypse of The Last of Us. These houses proved something very important. Interactive horror hits harder when you're the one walking through it.
He's got a point.
And now, it's time for a new entry to take its place on the speculative map. The Evil Within 2 doesn't just deserve the haunted house treatment, it demands it. If you're new here, or if you've braved my past haunted creations, you'll know that when I bring a video game to Halloween Horror Nights, I don't just slap some scares on a blueprint and call it a night. I reverse engineer the fear. Every experience is broken down and rebuilt from the inside out, turning gameplay into a living, breathing walkthrough of dread. Here's how the madness unfolds. Venue selection. Where does the house live on the Universal map? Which soundstage, which queue space, and why? Queue experience. The haunt starts before you enter. Lights, sounds, visuals. This is where the tone is set. Artwork and design. We create the face of the house, the key art that defines the fear. Setting an atmosphere. The core world, the physical manifestation of the game's terror. Prime locations. Must-see scenes, boss fights, and iconic moments that define the walkthrough. Character experiences. Who's waiting for you inside? Monsters, allies, and the souls that haunt the house. And lastly, the good old Easter eggs. Little winks and nods to the fans who live through every frame of the game. So now that you know how we build these things, let's break apart The Evil Within 2, piece by twisted piece.
Well, we're waiting.
The Evil Within 2 is more than just a survival horror sequel, it's a descent. Developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda, this nightmarish follow-up is guided by the twisted brilliance of Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami. We return as Detective Sebastian Castellanos, a man broken by grief and driven by guilt. 3 years after the events of the first game, Sebastian learns an unthinkable truth. His daughter Lily, long presumed dead, is alive. But she's not safe. She's being held deep within STEM, a digital mindscape designed to simulate a perfect town called Union. But perfection is fragile, and in this world, when one mind fractures, the whole thing begins to rot. What was supposed to be a calm, suburban sanctuary has decayed into a surreal hellscape, populated by the obsessions, traumas, and madness of those trapped inside. And trust me when I say, it's falling apart. Fast. To save Lily, Sebastian must plunge headfirst into this unraveling simulation, facing distorted killers, grotesque monsters, and the most dangerous enemy of all, his own past. The Evil Within 2 blends third-person action, stealth, and survival with a psychological edge. It's not always loud, it's not always fast, but it is always watching. The fear in this game doesn't just chase you, It infects you. And I know what you may be thinking. Why this one over the first installment? Well, where the first game was a fever dream of shifting nightmares, this sequel is more focused. Union grounds the horror. It's a town you can walk through until it starts to dissolve beneath your feet. That grounded eeriness, paired with an emotional drive of a father searching for his daughter, gives this game a raw power, a horror that cuts deeper than jump scares. And for Halloween Horror Nights, that's exactly the kind of terror that works. Because The Evil Within 2 isn't just disturbing, it's personal. And when you turn that kind of horror into a haunted house, you're not just designing a walkthrough, you're building a breakdown.
Venue selection.
Designing a haunted house isn't just about what's inside. It starts with where it lives. Location sets the tone before the first scream ever leaves a guest's mouth. And for The Evil Within 2, location is everything. In the past, we've tailored each venue to the soul of the source material. When we tackled Left 4 Dead 2, its explosive chaos fit perfectly in an outdoor queue space near the back of the park. Loud, open, and raw.
What?
Bro, not like that. Then came Dead Space, which demanded the chilling silence and spatial control of a front lot soundstage, letting us recreate the isolation of the USG Ishimura with surgical precision. But The Evil Within 2, it's different. This is a house where reality bends, hallways loop, and psychology becomes set dressing. It's not just a haunted attraction, it's a living, bleeding memory. And that means Union needs to be fully controlled, fully immersive, and fully manipulated. That rules out tents. That rules out backlot structures. There's only one place that can bring this twisted vision to life: a full-scale soundstage. Inside a soundstage, we can warp space, literally and emotionally. We can stretch time with sound design, obscure exits with shifting lights, and build physical transitions that feel like glitching between memory and nightmare. From the streetlights of Union, to the surreal art gallery of Stefano's domain, to the fire-soaked echoes of Sebastian's past, we need space to move and structure to trap. Sound stages give us the creative leash to simulate the crack of thunder, the drip of blood, the blinking of lights, and the whispers of stem, all without breaking the illusion. More importantly, they let us do the one thing Union constantly demands: blur the line between what's real and what isn't.
Q experience.
Before you officially step into Union, you need to feel like you're already inside of it. The cue for The Evil Within 2 doesn't scream in your face, it whispers. And those whispers grow louder with each step forward. Outside the soundstage, the structure is simple, but the vibe, it needs to be unsettling. Projected against concrete walls, we could see distorted promotional footage from Mobius. Think retro-futuristic infomercials selling Union as a safe, clean, suburban paradise. Only the footage glitches, pauses mid-smile, and sometimes skip backwards, like the simulation is stuck. Faint audio pulses from speakers overhead.
Core connection unstable.
Visual sync deteriorating.
And once inside the building, the immersion tightens. The hallway is long, clinical, eerily familiar to housegoers from previous years. Tapestries modeled after Stefano's quote-unquote art hang like religious banners, their edges stained dark red. Every few seconds, a blinding camera flash bursts from hidden strobes, snapping the moment, like someone or something is documenting their descent. Then the lights shudder, the air turns dense, and a door slams somewhere ahead. One that shouldn't exist. The queue isn't a hallway anymore. It's the first corridor of a collapsing mind. This is no longer a line. It's the beginning of the end.
Artwork and design.
When it comes to Halloween Horror Nights, the poster is extremely important. It's the first impression, the icon, the image burned into your memory before you've even stepped inside. For The Evil Within 2, the artwork should reflect the psychological unraveling at the core of the game. So some of the following elements should be used: blood-smeared canvases and warped photography, nods to Stefano's obsession with capturing death, a cracked camera lens or fragmented mirror imagery, symbolizing fractured perception and distorted reality. And as always, the most important element, Sebastian, isolated, haunted, caught between worlds. This poster shouldn't scream at you, it should unsettle you. It's the quiet kind of wrong that makes you lean in when you should be backing away.
Setting an atmosphere.
With the venue locked in and the visuals taking shape, it's time to step into the world of the Evil Within 2. And in this case, that world is Union, the crumbling facade of a suburban dream where reality itself is coming apart at the seams. Union will serve as the house's central identity. Its foggy streets, abandoned storefronts, and shattered tranquility set the tone immediately. Think small town, wrapped in a Mobius lie. Familiar, but fundamentally wrong. What makes this house different from something like Left 4 Dead 2 is that the setting doesn't have to stay consistent. Thanks to the chaos of STEM, we can bend the rules. Union is the core, but from there we can snap into anything like Sebastian's traumatic memories, Stefano's grotesque gallery, Union City Hall, or even the blood-soaked stronghold of Father Theodore. This house is allowed to glitch, shift, and collapse. That unpredictability becomes part of the terror. It's not just about monsters, it's about giving guests the feeling that something deeper is wrong, and no hallway can be trusted.
Prime locations.
Each of these rooms capture a different aspect of the Evil Within 2's identity. Its emotional trauma, environmental decay, and grotesque artistry. Together, they form a fractured narrative of fear.
Sebastian's house.
This space plays a critical role in the Evil Within 2, serving as both the emotional and narrative spark that ignites everything to come. It's where Sebastian's trauma began, the loss of his daughter, and the guilt that's haunted him ever since. As a haunted house room, this location works perfectly as a starting point. It immediately grounds guests in Sebastian's personal story before we even step into STEM. The familiar suburban setting, twisted by fire and memory, sets the tone for the psychological descent ahead, and it mirrors the game's own opening, giving fans that full circle moment right out the gate.
STEM laboratory.
The STEM lab acts as the bridge between the real world and the nightmare to come. In the game, this is where Sebastian is connected to the system, and for the house, it becomes the transitional space where we symbolically enter the simulation alongside him. Guests would move through a clean, high-tech room filled with Mobius equipment, flickering terminals, and other agents also hooked up to STEM. At the center, Lily's containment pod gives a clear visual of what's truly at stake. This area helps break up the house's pacing, provides a strong lore connection, and sets the tone for the chaos we're about to enter inside Union.
The streets of Union.
Union streets are the heart of the Evil Within 2, a distorted version of small-town Americana, teetering on the edge of total collapse. In the haunted house, this space gives us the opportunity to bring that crumbling, dreamlike setting to life. Cracked pavements line the floor. Flickering neon signs buzz overhead. Buildings sit half sunk into the ground as if they're being pulled into the void. Fog drifts in low, swallowing sightlines and gives scare actors plenty of cover to stalk just out of view. The streets of Union work perfectly because they blend familiarity with unease. It looks like a town, but nothing feels quite right. The surreal stillness, mixed with distant screams and twisted figures moving between alleyways, makes this space one of the most disorienting and effective transitions in the entire house.
Theodore's stronghold.
A dungeon-like fire-scorched domain, Theodore's stronghold is less a place and more a manifestation of control and religious fanaticism. Walls of scorched stone and iron bars frame the corridors, while glowing scriptures flicker along the walls, his sermons echoing from unseen speakers. What makes this section especially unique is that it allows the house to break time. In this fiery mind prison, guests are pulled into sudden flashbacks from the first game, facing ghastly returns of legacy enemies like the Keeper, the Sadist, and Laura. Each is sectioned off almost like sins on display, symbolizing Sebastian's inability to outrun his past. This not only pays homage to longtime fans, but also allows for varied, high-impact scares within one area.
Sebastian's room.
A moment of quiet unease. Sebastian's room provides an eerie calm, a familiar place drenched in clinical lighting and unnerving stillness. Guests walk past the iconic leather chair and headgear rig as if waiting for their next upgrade. The projector screen softly hums behind a desk, looping cryptic messages and images from STEM. In the corner stands Tatiana, the nurse, motionless, watching. And be careful, because if you're not paying attention, she could get you.
Very similar. Okay, why can I not upgrade?
Oh
my god!
A key? Excellent.
Jesus Christ, bro.
I hate that damn woman.
The theater.
This is art at its most horrific. The theater serves as Stefano's grand stage, where his obsession with beauty and death reaches its gruesome peak. The main auditorium is filled with lifeless mannequins, each frozen mid-scream with sacks over their heads, a nod to his signature victim display. Flashes from invisible camera shutters burst across the room, and Stefano's voice plays over an intercom, dramatic, poetic, and proud. Behind the curtain, guests glimpse Obscura one final time, perhaps staged, looming silently in a spotlight. This room is an emotional crescendo of Stefano's arc, a grotesque gallery of motionless violence and narcissism. It's theatrical horror turned literal.
Crumbled Union.
The final location brings us full circle. Union, once a crumbling suburban nightmare, is now void of all color, entirely gray-washed, as if life has been drained from it. Buildings collapse in on themselves, lampposts flicker before falling, the Mobius logo fades from signage, replaced with cracks and emptiness. Guests revisit Sebastian's house one final time. Now lifeless, a warped, blackened version of the home's facade greets them, mirroring the prologue, but stripped of warmth. At the climax, we face Myra, transformed and terrifying. Her massive, twisted form emerges amid the void of nothing but sand. The environment begins to collapse around her, skies falling, lights flickering wildly, pushing the guests towards the exit in hopes to escape. Alongside Sebastian and Lily, it's not just an ending, it's an eruption. Emotional, apocalyptic, and deeply unsettling.
Character appearances.
Okay, so when it comes to our cast for this experience, I want to be frank. The game is filled with a vast amount of characters, from the good, the bad, and the ugly. However, as much fun as I had cramming every undead or alien species into the Left 4 Dead 2 and Dead Space experiences, I will not be following the same formula for this house. Every person or thing that is seen in this haunted house will have purpose and will have played a pivotal role in the prime locations that will be witnessed in this house. So for our human cast, we will of course be seeing the likes of Sebastian, Myra, Lily, Julie, Tatiana, Stefano, and Theodore. As for Mobius agents, they unfortunately did not make the cut. However, they can still be referenced or even seen in a background. Maybe. I mean, Stefano did have a lot of artwork. For our monsters, we'll be rocking with the Guardian, Obscura, Aperture, the Keeper, Sadist, Laura, a mixture of the Lost and Albedos, and then finally, the Matriarch. So sadly, there will be no booby woman in this experience. If you watched my walkthroughs, you'll know what I mean. Oh!
Bro, she's got boobies in my face. I don't know if I have to blur this or not.
Although this cast is still stacked, it's more of a controllable group rather than just shoving the entire cast of the game into this house, because trust me, it's a lot. Before we officially escape Union, let's slow down for just a moment and talk about the details. Now, when I mean the details, I mean the good old Easter eggs. For fans of the series, especially the veterans who were there since Beacon, it wouldn't be a true Evil Within experience without some well-placed nods and visual callbacks.
The marrow and save terminals.
Scattered through the haunted house, guests might notice old-school terminals, glowing dimly in the dark. These are nods to the Marrow, Mobius's hidden underground network. Along with those terminal ones, you may see some other funny-looking ones, which would be a reference to the save terminals that can be located within safe rooms or even in Sebastian's room.
The Beacon Mental Hospital.
Tucked onto a bulletin board in Sebastian's room, among faded photos of the members of the story and warped family photos, is a poster advertising Beacon Mental Health Services. This is a direct nod to the first game setting, where the horror all began. A blink and you'll miss it relic of a traumatic beginning.
The OG weapon.
In a corner of Sebastian's room sits a weathered coat rack, and on it, Sebastian's signature magnum, holstered and waiting. It's never used, just displayed like a forgotten relic of a man who's been through hell. Only the real fans will notice this monumental gun.
Shinji Mikami.
Slightly tucked away on a dusty desk that can be seen in Sebastian's room, and maybe next to a bottle of green gel and our beloved cat Tatsuo, guests might notice a newspaper, and if you're sharp-eyed, you'll catch the headline. Spencer Mansion still missing. Arklay Forest investigation reopens. Next to it, you may see a faded photo showing a crumbling Victorian-style estate surrounded by dense woods and a familiar Raccoon City Police Department logo watermarked into the article. This is a deep-cut nod to Resident Evil, the game that defines survival horror and shares the same creative mind, Shinji Mikami, with the evil within. It's not in your face, but it's a love letter to where it all began. The mansion, the outbreak, the legacy. In universe, it plays off just like another weird urban legend. One more unexplained disappearance in a long list of cover-ups. But to horror fans, it's a perfect homage. And with that, we close the doors on Union. For now. The house served not just as a tribute to the Evil Within 2, but as Act 1 of something much larger. A deeper descent into horror. A celebration of narrative-driven fear, where each walkthrough doesn't end with the credits, but transforms into something you can walk through. We've explored the shadow streets, witnessed Stefano's twisted masterpieces, confronted Theodore's dungeon of fire and memory, and faced the emotional core that is Sebastian's guilt and redemption. And like any good nightmare, it lingers. But the journey doesn't stop here, because now it's time to turn the page and start Act 2 of Halloween Havok. And next up, we're heading to Blackwood Mountain. That's right, my next gameplay walkthrough is none other than Until Dawn. A different kind of fear, a new cast of characters, and choices that can quite literally kill. So grab your popcorn, avert those ears, and cover your eyes, because there's gonna be some cussing, there's gonna be some mess ups, but most importantly, there's gonna be some screaming. See you soon.